Well, carbon capture and storage, or CCS, is an important technology. I think that as a technology, it's getting attention, but the policies that are being adopted in general are not strong enough to really drive CCS. So we're going to have to start thinking, even as we're finishing up our commitments at this session, we're going to have to start thinking about how we close the gap between these commitments and what we need to do to protect the climate. And that greater level of ambition is where technologies like carbon capture and storage are going to play a larger and larger role.
And the only way to make it economic is to drive the cost down, and that requires, big investments. Are countries doing enough? Are they getting their cash behind R&D to drive this revolution?
Countries are not doing enough on driving the costs down for CCS. And again, I think it is part of the puzzle that until countries are firmly committed to the deep cuts in carbon emissions that we need, it's difficult for them to say, well, we have to make these expenditures now because the targets that we've committed to don't require a lot of CCS.
Climate change requires a long-term response, but governments are inherently short-termist. How do we overcome that?
Well, I think we have to one, appeal to the wisdom of political leaders who understand that part of their job is actually protecting the people that they represent. And I think we have to count on the increasing impatience from the public at the failure of political leaders to look after the long-term well-being of the populations of these countries. And if we get those two things operating together, I think we're going to see much more in the way of genuinely serious commitments to the long-term deep cuts that we need.
In Canada, there's recently been the inauguration of the Quest project in Alberta, but your side of the border in the US, how is CCS currently and how is it looking for the next decade or so? What's in the pipeline?
Yes, well, in Canada you have not only the Quest project, but you also have the Boundary Dam project, which is a coal-fired power plant. In the United States, we have a coal-fired power plant that is nearly completing construction. It's quite expensive because they use some novel approaches which they weren't able to really accurately estimate what the costs were ahead of time. But that project will be complete next year and operational. Then we have a proposal in Texas for another large-scale carbon capture and storage technology at a coal-fired power plant, and that construction on that one has begun, and it will be operational in a couple of years. Those are tangible projects. They're real. They're commercial scale. But it is not enough progress. We need to do more, and other countries need to do more in terms of getting these things built, because the only way we will get the actual costs to come on a downward trajectory is if we do it by learning from the first ones we build, and the second ones we build, and the third one we build.
Thanks very much. We'll leave it there.